I am presenting. I hope if you cannot see the video, please try to stop and rejoin. Okay, cancel and rejoin because I think I am presenting. Yeah, it is showing me here that you are presenting. So if you can't see the screen, you can't see that we will start in a few minutes message here, then please try to rejoin. So we are going to start with the chapter time value of money. I hope everybody can hear me. Okay, and I'll start. Now, there are different kinds of value of money. Okay, one thing that we call as face value. Now, face value is nothing but whatever you see written on the actual physical money would be its face value. So when I say 100 rupee note, the rupees 100 written becomes its face value. Then we have market value. So when we say market value, it is the conversion rate. So I say $1 is equal to 75 rupees right now. So that is nothing but its market value. How much a person is willing to pay for that much amount would become its market value. Now, in actuality, money is just a concept, it is not a physical quantity. Okay, money in physical quantity is just a representation so that we can actually do a exchange. Okay, there's a reason we call it a note, because if you see money there is something written on it. Okay, there's a governor's note written and it says, just give me 1 minute, I'll just bring it out. I have a 10 rupee note here, and if you read here, it says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of rupees 10. Okay. And then you will see a governor's sign. You will find this message in every note. Now, why is that? Because the government or the governor is promising us that this is worth 10 rupees. This is just a piece of paper. Okay. That is why we call it as a note, because it's a promissory note. Okay. Now, people who have studied a little bit of commerce might know what a promissory note is. Okay, it is just a contract. So this is just a piece of paper in which the government has said that it is worth rupees 10. Nobody knows what is worth rupees 10. Okay, it's just a value that we use for our exchange, for valuing other things. Okay, so the money, the concept of money is just a way of gauging value of different things. If you cannot hear, please try to rejoin, because I don't think every minute, huh? No audio. My mic is working. Please try to rejoin if there is problem with the audio. Okay. please try to rejoin. I'll just write down here. Okay, so it is called as a promissory note. It is just a piece of paper in which the government has promised you that that piece of paper is worth rupees 10 or rupees 100 or whatever. In actuality, there is much more uh, intangible money, or you can say not in physical form money, than it is in physical form. So physical form is there just to exchange goods, okay, just to facilitate our trade. So money is just a concept. If it is just a concept, it is not a physical quantity, it can also increase as a concept. Okay. So we talked about face value, we talked about market value. There is another value, that is time value. Now time value is nothing but the value that changes with time. Okay. So if a value changes with time, then we will call it as time value. So the time value of money changes due to two factors. We have interest and we have inflation. Now we'll be talking about inflation later on. In this chapter, we'll be only talking about interest. So interest, we will figure out how does time value change with interest. Now we have two types of interest. We have simple and we have compound. So we have simple interest and we have compound interest. When we talk about simple interest, I think everybody has studied simple interest and compound interest. We say simple interest SI is nothing but PIT, where we say P is nothing but our principal amount, amount invested, I is our rate of interest, and T is nothing but the time invested. So our simple interest is nothing but, for if we keep this principal amount for T time, then we will get how much more interest, how much more money. That would be nothing but our simple interest. For our compound interest, our CI ka formula starts from amount. So I will first write amount. Okay, amount for compound interest is nothing but our principal invested into 1 plus I, the whole raised to n. And we say compound interest would just be our amount minus principal. Simple interest may we say that our amount for simple interest must be nothing but our principal plus our simple interest. So here also this P is nothing but our principal amount. I is nothing but our rate of interest. And N is number of years. So please keep your video off. So here the main difference is our rate of interest in simple interest can be in different units. It will always be per time. So whatever time ka jo unit rahega, whatever unit the time is going to be, the rate of interest will be in the same units. Okay, whereas here we'll always have per annum basis pay, where we have number of years here. So it makes a difference if we write it in per annum basis or some other basis. Please keep the video of Shrivandas, Shrivandan Das. Please keep your video off. Thank you. Okay. So we have two types of interest. Now, why do we have two different types of interest? Why not just use one? I think everybody would agree that if I ask you which one do we use more, everybody would say that we use compound interest more. Everybody would say that we use compound interest more, right? Now, then, if we use compound interest more, why do we have simple interest? Now, compound interest is used more because this is consistent. Now, I'll talk about why it is consistent, how it is consistent, and why do we use simple interest? Because, as the name suggests, it is simple. Okay. Now, let's say that I give you 100 rupees as a loan, and I say I will charge 10 rupees as interest. I'll say I is equals to 10%. First, I will say simple. Okay. So if I say simple interest, let's say I gave you that loan for 3 years. So 100 rupees, I gave you 100 rupees here. After 3 years, we know at 10% rate of interest, it must be 130. So you will return me 130 rupees. Now, I gave somebody else a loan of rupees 100, but at only for 1 year. Same rate of interest, only for 1 year. So in 1 year, the person would return me 110 rupees. Then I took that 110 rupees and gave it as loan to somebody else, second person. So from time 1 to time 2, if I gave loan of rupees 110, 10% of 110, 10% of 110 is nothing but 11. So we'll have 121, right? Then I took that 121 rupees and gave it as a loan to a third person. Now, in 1 year, you'll find 121 into 1.1 will become 133.1. We'll get 133.1. So the same rupees 100 that I invested at the same time at the same rate of interest is giving me once 110, and the other time I'm getting 133.1. Clearly I am earning a little bit more here than here, right? So why would I invest for a longer time? Why would I give you that loan for a longer time if I can earn more money if I invest for short times? Right? So anybody would prefer to invest in a shorter time than to invest in a longer time. So that means anybody giving loan would always say, return me within 1 year, and if you want, you can take the money back. You can take the loan back. So all the companies, all the factories would have to liquidate all their money so that they can return the loan and then get it back at the end of the year. Now that does not make any sense. Okay, that is very inconvenient, and that is not at all practical. So what you would say is, okay, I will give you, instead of 130 rupees, I will give you 133.1 rupees in 3 years. So that would make more sense. Instead of giving 130 rupees, you would say, I will give you 133.1 rupees. Don't ask me to return every year. I will just give you 133.1 rupees. Now, if you actually use compound interest, you will find that for 1 year, okay, amount for 1 year would be nothing but 100 into 1 plus I. Amount for 2 years is nothing but 100 into 1 plus I square. And amount for 3 years is 100 into 1 plus I cube. If I keep again 10% rate of interest, if I keep again 10% rate of interest, this becomes 110, this becomes 121, and this becomes 133.1. So if you invest for 1 year, you are getting 110. If you invest for 2 years, you are getting 121. And if you are investing for 3 years, you are getting 133.1. So here, time is irrelevant. If you invest for less time, you are getting the same returns as if you are investing for longer time. Just क्या होता है, rather than reinvesting again and again, you have to invest only once. So compound interest is consistent as if we are reinvesting again and again every single year. You don't have to actually reinvest. You can directly say, I would give you 10% rate of interest compound for 3 years, rather than saying, take money every single year and re-give me that money, right? So that does not make sense. So simple interest is not consistent because there is a problem that if you invest for a longer time, you will get less interest than if you invest for short times and reinvest to make it longer. Okay. So simple interest is not consistent, but then why do we use it? Because the name, as the name suggests, it's simple. It's easier to calculate. Okay. If I say 10% for 3 years, you know the interest would be 30. But here, if I say how much was the compound interest for 3 years, you will have to calculate. You would have to say 100 invested for 3 years, so 1.1 raised to 3, and then I should subtract 100. Even if I write 5% interest and I say I'm calculating for 20 years, at simple rate of interest, it becomes very easy. For every 100 rupees, 5% would be 5 rupees per year for 20 years. That means 20 into 5, and you know that is 100 rupees. So you know that within 20 years, my total amount becomes 200 when I calculate using simple interest. But same thing if I say 5% compound interest for 20 years, if I ask you to calculate how much would be the amount or how much would be the interest, it becomes almost impossible for us to calculate because the amount for 20 years is going to be 100 into 1 plus I raised to 20, right? So raised to 20, I will have to use my calculator. So it becomes 265.32977. So clearly, it is very inconvenient to calculate using compound interest. So for communication purposes, sometimes for using it for a very small time period, simple interest is better than compound interest. It is not consistent, but it is easier, and that is why we might use it when we are talking about small amounts or when we are talking about small time periods. So if I am talking less than 1 year, most likely we'll be using simple interest. Let's say I am a supplier and you are buying goods from me. Okay. Now, usually what happens is in industries, they don't pay the supplier as soon as they get the goods. It's usually around a month or 2 months or 3 months. They pay them after that much time. Okay. So in 3 months, how much interest would I accumulate? Okay. So I would say that I charge people 1% per month. Now, if I say compound, then you'll have to calculate and it becomes very difficult to calculate. For simple interest, it's very easy to calculate. So for every 100 rupees, 1 rupee per month. So for 3 months, that it would be 3 rupees for every 100 rupees. So it becomes very easy for us to calculate simple interest. So for a short time period, we will be using simple interest. For long time periods, we use compound interest. Now nobody is going to ask you to figure out which one should we use. It will always be given in the question whether to use simple or whether to use compound interest. So you don't have to worry too much about it. Okay. So this was our simple interest and compound interest. Now we'll talk about present value. Present value is nothing but value of money or time value of money at any given point in time. Yes, by default it is assumed to be compound. Okay, so if nothing is given, we will be assuming that it is compound interest. Okay, so present value is nothing but time value of money. Okay, so time value at any given point of time would be called as present value. So present value at time 1 would be, let's say if I invest rupees 100 at time 0, how much would I get at time 1? So I'll say it is nothing but 100 into 1 plus I. This becomes the time value. Assuming compound interest. It could be simple as well, but we are right now I'm assuming compound interest. So I'll say is our compound interest. Okay. Then present value at time 2 would be nothing but 100 into 1 plus I square. That means if I invest rupees 100 at time 0, what would be the value at time 2? That would be called its present value. Present value at time 3 would be 100, 1 plus I cube. So I can find value at any given point of time in the future, that would be called its present value. Okay, I can calculate present value before as well. I invested that 100 rupees at time 0, but then how do I calculate the value at time minus 1, minus 2, minus 3? Now this rupees 100 did not exist before this point in time. Let's say I got a salary of rupees 100 and I invested that in some bank, okay, or in some company. So if this 100 rupees did not exist, then how can I find its value before this time? In actuality, as I told you, money is just a concept, it is not a physical quantity. So even if this rupees 100 that I have here, that I got as a salary at time 0, did not exist before, it existed in different forms. You always say we earn money by investing more money, right? I must have invested some money or at least some value before that converted into this particular time. So why did I get salary? Because I gave my services as a teacher. So that is why I got salary of rupees 100 at this particular time. Okay. So there was some value at this particular time. In commerce, in finance, we always assume it is money that is earning us more money. So I must have invested some money at time minus 1 that gave me 100 at time 0, or there was some money invested. So how much money was invested? The present value at minus 1 would be nothing but 100 divided by 1 plus I. Present value at minus 2 would be 100 divided by 1 plus I square, and present value at minus 3 would be 100 divided by 1 plus I cube. So we can calculate present value at any given point of time even if that 100 may or may not exist at that particular time. Okay, so money value does not depend on whether it existed in a physical quantity or not. We can still find its value. It might be in some other form, but we will always assume that money was invested so that we got more money, we earned more money. So if I say how much was invested at time minus 3, such that, or 3 years ago, such that I got rupees 100 at this time, so you would say this much would have been invested. One more thing, we always assume any money considered in finance is always assumed to be have invested. So the 100 rupees that is in my pocket right now does not count as money invested, because that has not been invested. It is not going to earn me more money. मेरे wallet में the 100 rupees that is kept in my wallet will not become 101 after a few days. It will not become 105 after 1 year. It will still remain 100 because it is not invested. That is ideal money. We do not assume ideal money in finance. We always assume that any money that we are considering in finance is has been invested somewhere or the other. So it is earning us money at any given point of time. It is constantly earning us more and more money. Okay. So that is why I'm saying that if I invest this much amount at time minus 3, it will give me 100 rupees at time 0. Or you might say it will give me this much amount at time 3. This becomes nothing but the present value. The present value is nothing but the time value of money at any given point of time. At that point, what is its present value? By default, present value is nothing but present value at time 0, today. Okay, present value would be today's value at time 0. Okay, so by default, it is nothing but present value at time 0. Just give me 1 minute. Some people are having problem with they cannot join it. There are some people who are having some problems in joining. Okay, so let me just give them some assistance. Okay, okay. Let's get back. Okay. So that becomes our present value. Now there is actually a concept of present value, so that is why we write present value. But what we do is we use something as future value. Now, there is no actual concept of future value, but just to distinguish between two values, we say present value and future value. Did anybody have any problem in joining? Because one student is having some problem. He cannot join in even after he has been trying with different phones and laptop as well. So I'm not sure what's going on. Give me 1 minute, okay? I'll be back in 1 minute. Chalo. The future value, as I said, future value is just a concept that we use. Okay, in actuality, present value is the only concept where we say time value at any given point of time. But we say present value if we take one value as present value, let's say time 0 pay, then at time 3 we call it as future value. So value in future we call it as future value just to distinguish between two values. Okay. So it becomes easier for us to talk about which value is in future, which value is in present. That's the only reason we use future value. So similarly, if I talk about simple interest, we'll say that my future value at time n must be equal to my present value into 1 plus I times n. This becomes simple interest. Or I will say future value at time t. So I will have present value plus it. For compound interest, we'll have future value at time n, present value into 1 plus I raised to n. Just for the sake of writing, we use future value, the value that will be in the future. Now, these two factors, this 1 plus I t and 1 plus I raised to n, this is called as accumulation factor. The accumulation, the word accumulation just means gathering something, okay, accumulating. So the term accumulation means how much money have we gathered in the future. So when we say accumulated value, we are talking about value in future. So we are talking about future value will be equal to, we say, present value into accumulation factor. So for simple interest, the accumulation factor is 1 plus it. For compound interest, the accumulation factor is 1 plus I raised to n. Now accumulation factor is also written as a t1 t2. It A is for accumulation factor, and bracket T1 T2, that means A is a function of T1 and T2. T1 is nothing but the initial time and T2 is the final time. So we are saying that we are accumulating from time T1 to time T2. So my accumulation factor from 0 to T in this particular case, I will say is nothing but 1 plus I T. Accumulation factor 0 to N is nothing but 1 plus I raised to N. This was for simple. This was for compound. So this is again a symbol. We'll be learning a lot of new symbols. So even if you have studied these particular symbols in a different way, don't use them, because we'll be using this throughout our course. For all 13 papers, we'll be using the same symbols. Yes, future value and accumulated value are same. Now in actuality, accumulated value is a concept. Okay, future value is just a designation that we give. Okay, so we say whatever value we are considering in future, we call it as future value, usually just to distinguish between present value and the other value that is going to come. The accumulated value that we say, that would be nothing but our future value. Okay, so in actuality, the concept is of accumulated value and not of future value, but we write it as future value. So this becomes our accumulation factor. So if I take an example, if I say that you invest rupees 5,000 in a company providing interest at rate of 7% per annum. Okay, 7% per annum. Find the accumulated value, or you could have called it future value. Okay, after 6 years. Now what we'll do is we will assume both simple interest and compound interest. So let's say this question says assuming first simple interest and then second compound interest. Okay, so for simple interest, we will say our time is 6 years, rate of interest is 7%. So our accumulation factor from 0 to 6 is going to be 1 plus. Our rates are always given in percent, but we will always write it in decimal. So we'll say 0.07 into 6. This becomes our accumulation factor. Similarly, for compound, we'll have n is equals to 6 years and I is equals to 7%. Our accumulation factor from 0 to 6 is going to be 1 plus, again 0.07 raised to 6. This becomes our accumulation factor. I think 1 plus 0.07 into 6, 1.42. And here, okay, this is the calculator, scientific calculator we'll be using. If you don't know how to use a scientific calculator, you don't have to worry about it. I will be teaching you everything. In this calculator, you would see we'll be using this raised to a lot. Okay, so we have squared value. So if I want to square, I will just press this. Okay, so I get a squared value. I do not want a squared value here. Okay, so I will remove it, delete. Then if I want raised to 6, I will be using this value. Okay, so you can see x and then raised to bracket. So if I use that, now I can write what value I want. I want 6. Now let's say I want to multiply it with some value. Okay, so when I do raise to, this is, I'll just write it down, 1.5007303. Okay. So let's say I'm saying 1.07 raised to 6. Now let's say I want to multiply a particular value. The problem is, you can see the cursor is in the power here. You can see the cursor is in the power. If I want to break, if I just say multiply, it will still multiply in the power part. I do not want that. I want it to multiply in the below part. So what I will do is I'll use this arrow keys. You can see the arrow keys: side arrow, down arrow, up arrow. These are the 4 arrow keys. We use these arrow keys, and if I press down arrow key, you can see the cursor comes down. If I press side arrow keys, it goes side, the other side. And if I am down, if I press up, you can see it goes up. So we can use this arrow keys to bring our cursor wherever we want to edit our equation or to write our equation. So I'll multiply 5,000 to it because we are talking about 5,000 rupees being invested. So our future value will just be 5,000 invested for 6 years. Either it may be simple interest or it may be compound interest. This becomes 7,503.6517. And here I will have I will have 5,000 into 1.42. So my future value here is, again I'll say 5,000, accumulation factor from 0 to 6, that becomes 7,100. Now the accumulation factor gives us a freedom to not to find how much we will get returns after this much time, even if we don't know how much did we invest. So here I got 1.42. If I invested 100 rupees, I know it would become 142. If I would have invested 100 rupees here, I would have got 150 rupees. So that ways we get a freedom of not knowing how much we have invested, or just knowing how much our money will become after that much time. So that is why we calculate our accumulation factor. Okay, obviously that is not necessary in every question. Whenever required, we'll do that. Whenever not required, we will directly find our future value. So you can see our simple interest is earning us less interest than our compound interest. Now that was, I think everybody knows that, because in compound interest we get interest on previous year's interest as well. Okay. Anyways, I'll not go too much into that concept. Okay. But if I said that the time is less than 1 year, if I said that we invested for 6 months only, so if I invest for 6 months, for simple interest, you have two ways of calculating. One thing you can do is you can convert your rate of interest into months. So my time, if it is 6 months, my rate of interest I, this 7% was per annum. So if it is 7% per annum, how much would it be per month? Would be 7 by 12% per month. And then my accumulation factor from 0 to 6 months, I would prefer writing years here, so I will say 0 to 0.5 will just be 1 plus 7 by 12 into 1 by 100, converting percentage into decimal into 6. Or what we could have done was converted a time into years, so that becomes 0.5 years, half year, and keep the interest rate per annum basis. And our accumulation factor 0 to 0.5 will be 1 plus 7 by 100, or 0.07 into 0.5. You know, these two are basically the same. So in simple interest, you can convert either the rate of interest or you can convert the time, but they both should be in the same units. So we get 1.035. For compound, we do not have such choice. We will always convert the time in years. So for compound, we will say our time becomes 0.5, I is 7%. So our accumulation factor we'll say 1.07 raised to, and then zero point 0.5. So we have 1.0344. If you see here, we got more interest. Here we are getting less interest in compound interest. We got more interest in simple interest. So I think everybody might have studied this before, that when we talk about less than 1 year, for 1 year, time is equals to 1 year, our simple interest will be equal to our compound interest. For time less than 1 year, simple interest will be greater than compound interest, and for time greater than 1 year, our compound interest will be greater than simple interest. This will be true for any rate of interest that is greater than 1. And we always assume that our rate of interest will be positive. Why is that? Because if you're earning negative interest, you will not invest in it. That is the concept, right? So that may happen when we talk about risky investment, but here we are not considering any kind of risk. You don't have to consider risk. Therefore, just give me 1 minute, okay? Okay, so we are not considering any risk, therefore there will be no rate of interest, there will be no negative rate of interest. I will talk about principle of consistency. If at all we consider negative rate, do we just add a new sign? No. Negative rate means negative rate. So as I told you that we will never consider negative rate, but in practical life, if you find negative rate, you will not just convert it into positive, right? So that is why negative rate means you are making losses. So instead of gaining money, you are losing money. That can happen, especially in stock markets, especially when you invested in a company that may not be earning money, will have losses. So there might be cases where you are actually losing money. That is called as negative rate. But when we are studying finances, we never assume negative rate, because logically a person would never invest knowing beforehand that you will be earning negative rate of interest, right? So therefore, what we are doing is we are calculating how much would we get in future. When you know that you have a negative rate, why would you invest in it, right? That is the point. So the principle of consistency. So I gave you a brief idea about principle of consistency, that when we were talking about simple interest and compound interest, it's the same thing. Okay. So the principle of consistency says that if an investor invests same amount and uh, for the same time, same amount and for the same time, then the earned returns earned should always be same, irrespective irrespective of the path taken. So if an investor invests the same amount and for the same time, then the returns earned should always be same, irrespective of the path taken. So we talked about this, that if I invest for 3 years in simple rate of interest, we got 130. And if I invest for 1 year and then reinvest for the same 3 years, we got 133.1. This should not happen. Okay. This should not happen. So this is not consistent. So therefore, we say simple interest is not consistent, but compound interest is consistent. So that is why we use compound interest a lot. Okay. So the principle of consistency says if I take a different path, then I should still get the same amount. That means my accumulation factor from, I'll just make a timeline. If I say this is my T1, or I'll say T0 से start करता हूँ, and then T1, T2, T3 till I have, let's say, Tn. I have different times. So I'll say my accumulation factor from this T0 to Tn directly should be same as going from T0 to T1, then going from T1 to T2, and going from T2 to T3, and going from T3 to Tn, irrespective of the path taken, whether I go in this manner or whether I go from T0 to directly to T2 and then go from T2 to Tn, or I go from T0 to T3 and then go from T3 to Tn. It should not matter. So for any path that I take, I go from this to this and then directly from here to here, or I reinvest at time 2 and then I go to Tn. It should not matter. For any combination and for all combination, our accumulation factors must be same, or our returns must be same. So our final accumulation factor ka multiplication must be same. So this is true for simple as well as compound interest, because we assume that there is a consistency. So sometimes even if there is a difference in rate of interest, we should get the same returns. I'll take an example. will take an example. In this question they are saying, now all the symbols of units, I will always say rupees just so that we don't get confused, because sometimes they will use pound, sometimes they'll use euros, sometimes they will use dollars. I'll always call them rupees, so don't get confused. Okay, so it's just so that I don't get confused, it's just so that you don't get confused. Okay, so units do not matter while writing our answers, because this examination is taken all over the world and they know that everywhere the unit symbol is different. So they do not ask you to write the unit symbol except for in the accounting paper, that is CB1. Okay, other than that you don't have to write the currency symbol. Okay, so I skip writing any currency symbol. So 4,600 is invested at time 0 and proceeds at time 10 are 8,200. Calculate accumulated accumulation factor from 7 to 10 if 0 to 9 is 1.8 and so on. So okay, these are the different accumulation factors that they have given, and they have given us an equation. So they are saying that future value at time 10 is 8,200, where present value was 4,600. So we can calculate using our we can calculate our accumulation factor from 0 to 10. The accumulation factor from 0 to 10 will just be 1.7826. Now in our calculator you can convert your decimal values into fraction and fraction values into decimal. So majority time the physical calculator will give you the answer in fraction. If you want to convert it into decimal, you have this SD button just above the del button. You can see SD. If I press that, it will give me the fraction form here, or if I press it again, it will give me the decimal form. Okay, you can see here fraction and decimal. That you can do in your calculator as well. So I will write it in fraction form just so that it is easier for me to write. I don't have to write a lot of decimal points. Whenever we use calculations, whenever we are calculating, we use at least 6 significant numbers. So at least significant numbers. So what does a significant number mean? If I write a number as 0.0001023, or I write 1023000, both of these numbers have only 4 significant numbers. So any zeros after decimal point or any zeros before decimal point does not count as significant numbers. So we only have 4 significant numbers. These are the values that give uh, this figure a value. Okay, so these are called as significant numbers, because I can write this as 1.023 into 10 raised to minus 4. I can write this as 1.023 into 10 raised to 10 raised to 7. So whatever I can write, the figures that I write here will be called as significant numbers. I have 4 significant numbers in both of these cases. So we will be using at least 6 significant numbers while we are calculating. And our answer should be at least in 4 significant numbers. Final answer. That is why I prefer fraction over decimals. Whenever possible, it is not always possible, but whenever possible we'll use fractions. So we have accumulation factor from 0 to 10. Now we'll talk about what is given to us and what we need to find. So I'll make a timeline. I'll say relevant times. We have 0 to 4, we have 7, we have 9, and we have 10. So we have 0 to 10, then we have 0 to 9, then we have 2 to 4, we have 2 to 7, and we have 4 to 9. These are the different given information to us. We need to find 7 to 10. This is what we need to find. How would we find? We can clearly say that accumulation factor from 0 to 10 is going to be equal to accumulation factor from 0 to 7, and then accumulation factor 7 to 10. Okay. So we'll have to find accumulation factor 0 to 7. We can split that too. Okay. So we do not have directly 0 to 2, but we do have directly 2 to 4, and we do not have any value 2 to 7. I can split them into these three parts, but I would need to find 0 to 2, and I need to find 4 to 7. So for 4 to 7, how would we find that? If we look at these three lines, we can say that using these three lines, we might be able to find 4 to 7. Okay, or just using these two lines, not even three lines, just these two lines. So my accumulation factor from 2 to 7 is going to be accumulation factor 2 to 4 into accumulation factor 4 to 7. So I have 2 to 4, so accumulation factor 4 to 7. So 4 to 7 will be 2 to 7. 2 to 7 is 1.32 divided by, we will have 2 to 4. 2 to 4 is 1.1. 6 by 5, decimal point is also not difficult, 1.2, so I'll write 1.2. So now we got this. Now we'll have to figure out how to find this. So there are only two lines that have 0 to 2, and because we have already used 0 to 10 here, we'll have to use 0 to 9 to figure out 0 to 2. So I'll say accumulation factor 0 to 9 will be equal to 0 to 2, because this is what we need to find, and then what we have 0 to 7 directly, and then we do not have 7 to 9, right? So rather than that, 2 to 4 and 4 to 9, I can write this as accumulation factor 2 comma 4, accumulation factor 4 comma 9. If I split in this way, I have all the lines connected. Accumulation factor 0 to 2 will become this divided by these two. 0 to 9, 1.8 divided by. Now one more thing you can do is you can make it as a fraction as well. You can see this in your calculator just below CALC. Actually, in our actual calculator, we do not have a CALC button here. We have something else. We have ABS button. So if you have the calculator with you, here you have ABS written. But in this, you can see below the CALC, here we have a fraction sign. If you click that, you will find that it shows you fraction, and you can go up and down using your arrow keys in this fraction. Okay, you can go up and down. Okay, so below we want 2 to 4, that is 1.1 into, we want 4 to 9. 4 to 9 is 1.45. So the fraction here is too big, so I would prefer decimal value. I'll say 1.1285266. I have taken here a lot of significant, I have taken 8 significant values. So if I write it in this way, this is nothing but 6 significant values. I'll require at least 6 significant values. So finally we needed to find accumulation factor 0 to 7. That would be 0 to 10. Sorry, we needed to find 7 to 10. So I'll write this equation again. 0 to 10 will be 0 to 2 into 2 to 7. Actually, 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 7, and then 7 to 10. So we want to find this. We'll say 0 to 10. 0 to 10 was how much? 0 to 10. 41 by 23. Numerator में 41 divided by 23. And in the denominator, 0 to 2 was 1.12853. Then 2 to 4. 2 to 4 was 1.1. Then 4 to 2 to 4. Then 4 to 7 was 1.2. And that gives us 0 to 7 as 1.19665. 6655. So my final answer will be 1.197. At least 4 significant numbers. So this was principle of consistency. Now here, if you just see the question, they have not specified anything, whether it is simple interest, whether it is compound interest, whether the rate of interest is changing, whether the rate of interest is not changing. We do not care what kind of rate of interest we were getting if we have the accumulation factors with us. So here we do not actually want to know what kind of accumulation factors did we, what kind of rate of interest did we actually have. But we can calculate that. How would we calculate that? Let's say if I want to calculate how much rate of interest did I actually get between 7 to 10. So between 7 to 10, my rate of my accumulation factor 1.197 would be equal to 1 plus I raised to 3. That would be nothing but cube root. For cube root, you will see that just above the square root, you have here cube root option. To access anything in yellow, what we do is we use the shift button. So if I press shift and then press the root button, you will see that I get cube root. Cube root of 1.197. So I'm getting 1 plus I is this much. So I must be 0.06177. Okay. Or I would say I is equal to 6.177%. This was the rate of interest that I was getting. Compound rate of interest. 7 to 10. Now you will have different rate of interest for different time periods. Okay. So rate of interest does not matter here. This is nothing but the average rate of interest that we earned from time 7 to time 10. But rate of interest does not matter here to solve this particular question. So we could have had simple rate, we could have had compound rate. Our accumulation factors will be always be related in the same manner. So today we have learned a new concept of accumulation factor, and we have learned present value, future value, and accumulated value. Okay. If you have any doubts, please write it down. Okay, and we'll continue this chapter tomorrow. Okay. We are are almost out of time. We'll continue this chapter not tomorrow, next Saturday. Okay. So I'll give you the timing for next Saturday, but most likely our time is going to be 6 to 8 p.m. next Saturday. Our timing is going to be 6 to 8 p.m. Okay. So but I'll confirm that on no we this is going to be Saturday Sunday class. See, I think we discussed that in the group yesterday or even in the class that we will have multiple batches. Okay, so this is just demo lectures. Demo lectures are going to be Saturday Sunday only. Then we will have a weekend batch, just Saturday Sunday batch. We will have a weekday batch, so it will be different for different people. Okay, so that weekday batch will start from the next week. Okay, not from this week. So these three demo lectures are common for all, and then we will split people in batches. Okay. See, we said that our accumulation factor was 1.197. So if I want to calculate how much averagely rate of interest I've earned between these 3 years, so my accumulation factor T1 to T2 will always be 1 plus I raised to T2 minus T1. The number of years that we are getting is 3 years in this particular case. So my accumulation factor from 7 to 10 will just be 1 plus I raised to 3. So that ways this 1.197 will be equal to, or cube root of this will be equal to 1 plus I. Right? Now the other way of writing this is I can write this as 1.197 raised to 1 by 3. Okay. So in the calculator you could have done that as well. You would see that if I say 1.197 raised to, if I do 1 divided by 3, I will get exactly the same answer. So my I is still 6.1772228%. Now I'll be posting sums in our WhatsApp group. Okay, by let's say 1 o'clock. Okay, so related to whatever we have studied, so that you can practice. So I'll be posting for simple interest, compound interest, and accumulation factor. Yes, I'll be posting those sums by 1 o'clock in our WhatsApp group. So I'll end the class here. If there are any more doubts, we can discuss it in our WhatsApp group. But after 12, because I will be taking another class 10 to 12. Okay. Bye.